happened to start your journey here?
The king sent soldiers to put up proclamations all over the city.
Leave. My father gave me a journal and told me to write of what happened in it.
How did you get the journal?
For my birthday, from my father. I have to write in it.
Back to what I said. How did your family get here?
My father was an alcalde, kind of like a justice of the peace. When he heard of the proclamation, he ordered a town meeting.
Who inspired you most on your journey?
My friend Pepe and Tony, my horse.
How was the trip over here?
Well, after we sold the animals, which was very hard to do,
Father, please help us to go to New Spain.
we heard word that the ship would come. We had to leave the animals. The trip over here was fine, but we had a few detours. Now,
What detours?
oh, only one. It came about after we landed in Cuba. The stay there was wonderful until the outbreak.
What outbreak? Don't leave me hanging, boy.
The outbreak of Cuban smallpox. The whole town had it. Only 4 people from Tenerife had it, but they had all been exposed to us. So my father made an important decision. In order to prevent spreading, he ordered all the women to be isolated and all the men to be vaccinated. Then the men were to care for the sick.
What did that have to do with your detour?
Well, that was a blessing in disguise.
What do you mean?
If we hadn't been there those extra weeks, we wouldn't have gotten the letter telling us that we couldn't sail up the coast because of the cannibal Karanka was in Texas. We would have surely died.
My, lucky you. So how did y'all end up getting there?
We were to travel with mules and mule packers through Mexico City into Texas and settle in San Antonio. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Well, it wasn't. Kinda, I pretty much know the rest.
Stacy, it was my turn. I pretty much know the rest. The Indian raids and cold winter nights in the mountains. Nostalgia. As you know, I'm new friar here. Alan told me that you also had trouble with the Indians in the previous friar.
Michael, smile.
Yes, they tried to stop us from coming to Mass. They cut down the bridge. Then they stopped our irrigation supply.
Oh yes, I remember some of the townsfolk saying that. Now, what was all the commotion about the Indians?
They stole our horses.
Take this on, Brian.
After the horses were stolen, the men of the village decided that they were going to launch a surprise attack on the Indians. Much to their surprise and their joy, the men of the village weren't there, they were on a buffalo hunt. So they took all the women and the children captive and prisoners, and they brought them back to the village. They took all of them prisoners, put them in the jails, except for the small boy chief, the chief of White Eagle. He escaped, and he found hiding in the barn of Carlos. Carlos's barn. Carlos found him there and told him he'd be safe using the sign language that he had learned with the mission people. After Carlos had told him he'd be safe there, he gave the boy his horse, and little Chief White Eagle went back to his father and told him of the hospitality of the people there. Carlos was concerned about his horse and thought that the Indians had taken him and they weren't going to return, but about 2 weeks later, out on the horizon, they saw dust flying up and someone waving a white flag, so all the townspeople went out there to greet him, and it was Chief White Eagle of the Apaches. He told them that he was happy with the hospitality of the people, They were sorry they had to steal the horses, but they were on a hunger strike because the Comanches had raided them, and that he was going to be at peace with the white people, and he named Carlos his next son, which was going to be Little Chief White Eagle. In the early 18th century, King Philip IV of Spain was advised to send civilian settlers to Texas in order to hold the territory against the French settlers who were pushing at its eastern edge. First plans called for 400 families to volunteer to venture. 200 of them were to come from the Canary Islands, and all of them to settle at various sites in Texas. No doubt the venturing families who led the way expected to be joined by neighbors, friends, and relatives. They waited and all hoped, in vain, however, for the King Philip to begin having difficulties home and abroad. In Spain, there was an anti-Catholic movement to contend with, and there was fierce rivalry with England for trading with the American colonies. But buccaneers were also hunting with Spanish shipping with their acts of conspiracy. Further, sending through the first few families of the New Spain had proved too costly for the crowded community and the economy of Spain. Thus, the founders of San Antonio remain unique, settlers of the new land and the favorite of the new king.